All right, welcome in back here on the channel. I am John Kurtz. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do consider subscribing. I talk Big 12 football all week here on this channel, and a lot of conference realignment, obviously, because that is a sign of the times. And very happy to welcome in right now Bob Thompson, who is the retired president of Fox Sports Networks and Fox Sports International. If you've been following him on Twitter, you've seen him drop some knowledge in this discussion that's gone back and forth between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and TV contracts and everything that's happened in light, especially the Big Ten news being leaked here recently. So, Bob, really appreciate you taking the time for me to come on here and educate us all on what happens in these TV negotiations and what's real and what is not when it comes to all of this. Let's just start with the Big Ten news. So it was leaked. It's not official yet, but we got a leak from the Sports Business Journal that no ESPN in the Big Ten TV deal. It's going to be over $1 billion total, which is what the Big Ten was seeking. And CBS and NBC are going to be involved along with Fox. Just your initial reaction to what we found out about the Big Ten deal.
Well, first of all, John, thanks for having me on. It was shocking to me. I think that ESPN was not a part of it. When you start talking about the leaks, I think the leak that ESPN wasn't going to be involved anymore definitely came from ESPN. The conference wouldn't leak that because they want the other bidders to think that ESPN is still in there and has a chance to snatch their package away at the 11th hour. So it keeps everybody honest, but it was a surprise given the 40-year history between ESPN and the Big Ten Conference. They've been a big supporter of the conference, and the conference has been a big part of ESPN's program offerings for years and years. So that really did surprise me. The other thing that surprised me, I would say, is the fact that 3 broadcast networks involved in the deal. They kind of call it the anti-streaming deal. I mean, as long as you have a TV, you can get these games because they're going to be available on free over-the-air television across the country. And it's really the only thing that you can really compare it to is an NFL model, where you have CBS, Fox, and then the NBC Sunday night game. So it's a home run for the conference. I think it's certainly going to position them in a situation where you're going to have 3 straight games on broadcast networks every Saturday, more or less, and then you'll have some FS1 games and some Big Ten network still have its package of games as well. But bodes really well for the Big Ten Conference.
You bring up streaming there, and that piques my interest because we've heard so much about it, and that, hey, Apple may get involved, Amazon may get involved. Are we making too much of that? Is it still, are we getting ahead of ourselves and thinking about streaming being a major factor here? Where do you foresee streaming going with college football TV rights?
I think this time around, pretty much all of the new deals will have some streaming element to it. I pretty much can guarantee you that NBC didn't buy their rights without something for Peacock. They haven't purchased any sports rights for the last couple of years that didn't have a Peacock element to it. Then I also think that there's probably would be likely that maybe there's some sort of carve out for a Amazon Prime or Apple TV Plus package, maybe a little off the top of the Big Ten product, or, somewhere in there between the 4th and 5th football selections on any given week. The conferences are going to walk with the streaming services before they run. I don't expect a streaming service to get a top tier package or, an entire package or anything like that at all for any of these conferences. But I think it behooves the conferences to, participate with the platforms where their viewers are. And, a lot of the younger graduates from these schools, they're non-cable, non-satellite type folks. And to be able to offer them some level of programming above and beyond what you're going to get on the broadcast networks, I think is really important. So they'll probably be, hard to say until it actually comes out, but I think a streaming deal makes a lot of sense. I think there's some stuff the streamers can do that the others, broadcast networks and cable networks, can't. You think of along the lines of, what about a red zone channel for the Big Ten, all of the NFL? What about alternate feeds, all ESPN and the Manning cast? Those are the type of things that Amazon Prime, Apple TV, ESPN Plus, guys like that can do that the linear networks just can't.
When we talk about the ripple effects of this Big Ten TV deal, obviously the first, just based on timing, is going to be the Pac-12 that a lot of people turn to and think about, all right, what does this mean for their deal? And I think there have been two different schools of thought here. One would be, oh, this is great. ESPN has all this inventory now that they're going to need to fill. But the flip side of that coin would be, well, how much competition is there for ESPN? Can they now lowball the Pac-12 because there will not be as many networks like NBC, CBS potentially involved there? How do you see it shaking out for the Pac-12 and the impact of this?
I would say it's somewhere in the middle. I think that certainly for the Pac-12, there is probably some grins around the offices or the Zoom meetings when the ESPN news came out. I think that there'll be some bidders more than just ESPN, and Fox probably wants to have some level of, they need some additional games. Will it be Pac-12 or Big 12? Who knows? I think for ESPN, the West Coast inventory is still important. The 10:30 Eastern window is important for the conference as well as for ESPN. I think if you're a ESPN subscriber, viewer, whatever, and you're on the West Coast, you expect there to be a football game on from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed. And so that 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern window is important and is valuable. It might not be as valuable as it used to be because with some of the other moves, the Big 12 can schedule BYU in that window with an 8 o'clock Mountain kick. The Big 10, theoretically could have a 7:30 Pacific window with a USC or a UCLA game. Maybe one or two. I don't think USC or UCLA really want to play night games. And are you going to see USC against Michigan or no, but you could see USC against Indiana or USC against, Purdue, something like that. So there's a little more competition in that window than there has been in the past. Mountain West Conference plays in that window, some on CBS Sports Network and on Fox. So it's still valuable, and it's interesting because a lot of times the conference used to fight us on those games, and the coaches really don't like them, and the fans grumble because it disrupts plans, and again, understand all those things. But at the end of the day, what everybody seems to hate might be the thing that actually provides a lot of value for the conference going forward.
Well, this is where I'm really glad to have your expertise, because a lot of theories get floated on Twitter. A lot of the people that follow this YouTube channel float a lot of theories, and this is one I'm very curious to know whether this, from your perspective, would be in any way realistic at all or not. But one thing that I've had suggested to me by a couple people is, hey, okay, what if ESPN comes in and says, we know that if we lowball the Pac-12, if we don't give a deal that's going to be enticing to everybody in the league, that will be something that will allow them to get Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal signed up long-term, or even appease the four corner schools if they have any interest in the Big 12. If we lowball them here, there's a better chance of this league disintegrating, breaking off, having issues here. What if ESPN comes in and makes a better offer because they want that league to stay together and they don't want a league that they're going to be in business with breaking up? Is that totally off base? Any legitimacy to that kind of theory or thinking at all?
No, there's legitimacy to it. I think, though, that ESPN, Fox, all the networks feel that a strong college football collective is important. And whether that's on the West Coast or the East Coast or down in the Southeast, Southwest, or the middle of the country, it makes a lot of sense. Because if all of a sudden you just have a couple of super leagues in the middle of the country in the Southeast, it's not going to bode well for interest in some sort of a college football playoff championship down the road, which will be expanded, I think, next time around. I don't. Wrecking a conference, nobody wants to be accused of that. I don't agree with a lot of the people who say that, TV's behind all these moves. I think, TV reacts to the moves, but I don't think TV initiates the moves. I do think that if the Pac-12 gets a strong offer from ESPN and some others, and they're able to monetize somehow what's known as the Pac-12 networks, and what that has done or not done over the last 10 years, and create some sort of additional digital package, I think the conference can hold everybody together, and that's what's important. If the number's not quite good enough, some of the schools, Oregon, Washington, along those lines, might say, we want a bigger share of the revenue, or we want appearance money, or we want something. And that, assuming everything works there, they'll stay together. I really think they want to stay together. Will they expand? They could take a look at San Diego State. Might be good for keeping a presence in Southern California, but I don't think they have to expand. So, we'll wait and see. They are, as you say, they're on the clock, and they'll be first up. Now, it is possible, entirely possible, that the Big 12 might initiate discussions early. Nothing precludes them from doing that. They might not be able to go outside of their existing rights holder and Fox and ESPN. So they wouldn't necessarily be able to talk to NBC or CBS, but there's ways for those NBC and CBS to get word to the conference that, they might have an interest. And so don't do anything within the window unless you get blown away by somebody.
You brought up San Diego State. There are a lot of San Diego State fans who follow the channel and have reached out and wonder about their status here. And I think potentially in certain scenarios could be in play for either conference, the Pac-12 or the Big 12, but from a TV standpoint. So yes, they are in Southern California. They're in a market now that has lost an NFL team. If that generates any more interest in football, obviously, I mean, what they're doing on the field, I think is strong enough to compete in either one of those leagues. But what does San Diego State bring in terms of value? Is that something that would be dilutive, or would it actually be additive when you're talking about a TV deal for either conference?
That's always the question, if you're going to say, all right, each conference wants to get, 35 to 40 million per school average, does San Diego State bring that? I don't know that they do. I mean, 1.2 million homes. Southern California is important, though. I mean, it's a hotbed for recruiting. Everybody likes to be in there. Everybody likes to say, we're going to take our, if you come to play for us, you'll go home and play every year, that type of a thing. Alumni like to take trips to San Diego. I mean, it's a very enticing market. I think that you could add one. I don't think you have to have pairs. Pairs for basketball is probably a little more important than pairs for football when doing expansion. But I think you could get by with just adding San Diego State. Beyond that, you could look around. Both conferences could look at places like Boise, SMU. Boise State, SMU, places like that, Fresno State, UNLV is kind of hanging out there. But I don't know that any of those, other than San Diego State, brings quite the value that the Aztecs would bring. I was out there last week and drove by their new stadium. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's right near the old stadium. The Jack Murphy, you could expand it from 35 to 55 real quickly, apparently. So. They've done it the right way. They've constantly improved their facilities. They've improved their football product. They've always been pretty good in basketball. They're playing a stronger schedule. They did very well against the Pac-12 last year, and I expect them to keep improving. It's kind of along the lines of how Utah progressed several years back within the Mountain West, and then was ultimately given the golden ticket into the Pac-12.